Hey, this is Georgia from The Last Dinner Party, and I'm here chatting with Milky. I think that it was a product of many things, but I think that a lot of the album sort of reflects our experiences of what happened after the first album came out. I think there are songs that directly speak to the experience of being an artist and having your art and your story perceived and consumed by other people, and how it felt to go from being completely invisible to then being in the public eye, and the experience of how amazing and how exhausting and sort of strange it is to go on tour and be in America and be alone in a hotel room in Ohio and thinking, how did we get here? So I think that the album sort of is a product of what happened to us in the wake of the first album, but also it sort of speaks to how we've developed as artists and consumed more music and been more places in the world and absorbed so much more music and being at a different point in our lives. So just reflects us and our experiences. We never obviously set out to have success. I think it wouldn't have happened had we imagined that it would. And then when Nothing Matters came out, and then the first album, and we were getting all this attention and all this praise, it's kind of hard to reconcile that with just going to the shops and like getting on the tube and coming home and your flat's an absolute disaster. And, you know, there's all of these things that became so glamorous and exciting and rock and roll about our lives, but then you'd go home and everything's just as it was. So I think it took us a second to find the balance, but I think the most important thing is just staying in contact with people who make you feel normal, like your partner or your flatmates or your mum and dad back home. So yeah, it's definitely a balance, but I think we've struck it now. We never held back on the first album, but I think on the second, we were not only not holding back, but we were also reaching forward into new territory. And I think there are some things that we did on the second record that we would never have thought of with the first. And I think that's just by being sort of even more confident musically and being emboldened to experiment so much more. I think there's a lot more work with the sort of vocal harmonies and the choirs that we used in songs like Woman is a Tree and Second Best, and that, you know, challenged us all to, you know, sing in a 5-part harmony is really hard, especially to do live. But I think we really just wanted to challenge ourselves musically and also challenge each other and see where we could go with an album. And I think we were just a lot more confident in this one to just see what would happen. I think each song has its own different story, and a lot of the time it will come from a piano and voice demo that Abby has made or anyone, and then all 5 of us will sort of take it home, do some work on it, and then come back to the studio and say, we're all quite funny because we'll all be like, tell me if you hate it, it's probably really shit, blah, blah, blah. And then we'll show the group something, and then everyone else in the group will be like, that is so good. So I think we have that classic sort of thing that women do of like, this is probably really bad, but, you know, whatever. And then it's just an absolute masterpiece. Yeah, we all sort of encourage each other a lot. And I think that space is really important when you're creating, to have a encouraging and safe bunch of people to show something that means a lot to you, that you put a lot of effort into, and just open that up to the group, who will always be like, that's great, let's do it. We had written the album before we really realized what it meant and what united it as an album rather than just a collection of songs. And it was only after we'd written it and took a step back and looked at each song and how it related to the next and how it was, because we knew it was all part of this world, of this sort of origin, but it took us a second to look at each song and think about how it was a reflection of this ideology of using really evocative imagery and character study in order to talk about your own experiences. So to talk about yourself in this heightened sort of like pathological character of like, so like a murderous cowboy, and this is the killer speaking, or, you know, like a sort of tragic sailor, you know, or like using these sort of this mythos to describe some things that are universal and even mundane, I think is a really interesting lens through which to talk about experience. And I think that each song does that in a different way, and that philosophy sort of unites the album. I would choose The Scythe. I think when I played that to my friends for the first time before the album came out, that was the one that got the most immediate, like, Georgia, that's an absolute banger sort of response. And my housemates, when I played it to them before the album came out, they were begging me for a link to listen to it over and over. So I had to sort of leak it to them. So I played them that one, and I would play them Agnus Dei, which is the opening track, because even though it's pretty weird and it's like 5.5 minutes long, I think it's us at our most us, if you know what I mean. Like, it's got crazy vocals, it's got Kate Bushy percussion-y weirdness, and it's got a guitar solo, and it's just like, we really just chucked everything at that one. And I think it's the most TLDP song. And then finally, I think I would do Woman is a Tree, because the sort of vocal arrangement at the beginning is just so interesting, so weird. And I think that a lot of people hear that song and find something to connect with sort of spiritually with it. I think that it speaks to women, obviously. The experience of performing it was really, really cathartic, and playing it live is extremely cathartic because people sort of begin to scream, which is what we wanted to happen. We really wanted to elevate what we'd been doing for the last couple of years with the Prelude songs. I feel like with the Prelude tour, we just sort of played the songs in an order. And I think we were really looking with this most recent tour that we've just finished in the UK to turn it from a rock show into a theatrical, immersive production as well. So, you know, it's obviously a rock show still, but there's a lot of thought that's gone into the set design, the lighting, the transitions between songs, almost a sort of choreography of the whole thing. And it just flows in a really calculated but organic way. And it feels like a massive step up for us. And we put a lot of work into the show. So we can't wait for Australians to see it. The reaction to The Scythe was pretty special on this tour. We knew that it was gonna, you know, be a fan favorite and stuff, but we would start playing it, and, you know, it starts with this sort of organ sound and a flute, and even, you know, Aurora would play the first chord and you'd see the front row just burst into tears. So I think that that was really special to see how a song can have significance and meaning to people in a way that we didn't anticipate. Like in Newcastle, we were playing it, and there was this big balcony where you could see all of, you know, the fans who were seated, and people were seated except for this one older guy who's probably, you know, late 50s, maybe 60 something, who was just stood singing every word like it was his song. And it was just the most beautiful, special thing to see. Like, I don't know what it meant to him particularly, but clearly something pretty important. And I was like holding back tears looking at this one guy. Yeah, it's everything. I think for us, we were always looking to be a live band, and we didn't even think about recording music until we'd got a record deal, and we were like, oh God, I got to record something now, because we were so dedicated to the live show and always have been. And it feels like sometimes when you're in the studio and you're making songs and something that you're not writing for an audience and for a reaction, but the reaction that happens when you play it live is the missing ingredient. It's like the sort of magic dust that connects us to the song, connects the audience back to us, have this sort of communal experience of creating a sound and having everyone in in the room being absorbed by it. And I think that, yeah, we're such a live band, and I think always will be, yeah. The Rolling Stones, David Bowie, Queen, Kate Bush, Bjork, Florence and the Machine, all them. I would love to have Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross remix one of our songs. I think that would just be mental. I would say that Lungs by Florence and the Machine probably had the most impact on me. I think it came out in like 2009. And I remember hearing The Dog Days Are Over on the Hottest 100 that year. And it just, completely changed my life. And I thought that, music is just possibly the best thing ever. I'd love to do a horror. I think like Midsommar. I think that would be cool to do something weird and scary vocally. Loads of different stuff. Sometimes depends on the day. Sometimes I'm thinking, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And then sometimes I see someone crying and then I start crying and I'm like trying to think of like non-sad things to hold back. Because if we're just on stage looking at a crowd who are crying, I'm such a big crier. So I'll just start crying. And then there was a show recently where I had the flu. So I was just thinking, just get through it. It's really nuts. Miley Cyrus, of course. Gotta be authentic. I think when I first started getting piano lessons when I was a kid, I definitely remember playing and singing Fix You by Coldplay. And I still do. I think that was Muse in Sydney at the entertainment centre, and Biffy Clyro was supporting. And it was actually just a really epic show. I think I was about 8, so it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I've been to so many, but most recently I went to Oasis at Heaton Park in Manchester, and it was just like 70,000 Manx just singing every word, and it was just like setting off flares and just like singing. It was just so cool. Spice Girl, for sure. I think I'd have to be Aussie Spice because I'm like the token Australian in my band. So Aussie Spice, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've been to so many places, but I would really love to perform in more places in Asia. I think that the music scene in Southeast Asia and also Korea is like really popping off. So I would love to perform in Seoul, but also, in Indonesia, Thailand, all those places. I think they're getting a really cool emerging music scene. Probably Glastonbury last year, I would say. It was our second time doing Glastonbury, but we were playing last year. We were playing on the other stage, which is like the second biggest stage of the whole festival. And we were playing it at about 3:00 in the afternoon, and the sun was setting, and we were so scared. And I say that it was the most memorable, but I think I blacked out the whole time, but got off stage and we're like, oh God, that's done. All right, let's get shit-faced. I would love to see CMAT do one of our songs. I think she would put a cool spin on it. I think she's just so incredible. And yeah, she's coming to Australia soon as well, so I'll be there. So many, but I think most recently I can think of Ray. I think that after she split off from a record label, I think that she's been so vocal about the rights of songwriters and the rights of performers. And I think that her being so outspoken about that has actually, you know, made a lot of positive change to bring light to something that people didn't really know about outside of the music industry. And I think that it's an amazing thing, and I'm so glad that she's seeing so much success as well. Yeah. Like, chill out. I think, like, chill out, please. I think I tend to sort of just go at a million miles an hour, and I don't really realize that I'm really exhausted until I stop doing it. So I think if I could figure out how to chill out, then that would be probably beneficial. Oh, God. I mean, I did English at uni, so there's a million. Recently, I read this book called My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, and it's set in Naples in the sort of, 20th century. And it's just this incredible character study about young female friendships and relationships and growing up in the world. And it's almost like sort of gossipy, like there's a lot of sort of little dramas that happen, but it's just so evocatively written, and I blitzed through it in like 3 days, so yeah, you'll like it. I would listen to 5 Years by David Bowie, which is actually about the end of the world, and whenever I listen to it, I sort of imagine what that would be like to hear that time was limited. So I think that would be a sort of funny thing to listen to as the world was ending. Yeah. It's funny because I didn't like, I always wanted to, obviously, but it felt like wanting to be an astronaut. Like, it's like not going to happen. So I think I didn't realize that it is everything I'd ever wanted until it happened. And I thought, I can't believe this has happened to me, because I didn't even dare dream of it. Obviously grew up playing music, and I'm obsessed with music, but it felt like such a impossibility. And then it happened, and that's when I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is my dream.